Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Our first story is about what happens when company loyalty and following the rules clash with trying to keep everyone happy, even if that everyone happens to be the VP of the company. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like if you enjoy the content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a juicy story. Manager tells me you need to know which rules to follow. About 15 years ago, I was working nights and weekends in a convenience store. It also happened to be the first time the fuel prices shot up to $4 plus a gallon in America. Because of this, there were quite a few people who pumped gas and drove off, prompting our company to institute a pay-before-pumping policy. The company was a small regional chain of gas stations and convenience stores in a largely rural area. They were concerned about any loss, so much so that in the company newsletter they announced firing someone for regular theft from the store. The theft in question was when an employee refilled her fountain drink while on duty. Another example was that we were required to do money drops anytime we had more than $200 in the cash register. Another employee was fired because she was robbed at gunpoint and hadn't done a money drop. There was approximately $205 in the register at the time. So when this new policy came out, I wasn't about to risk my job over someone filling up and driving off with a tank full of gas on my watch. My manager was really good about working around my needs for class, research, etc. while working on my degree. So I put up with this and wanted to keep my job. One night I'm working and someone pulls up to get gas. The machine beeps, letting me know someone's trying to fuel up before paying. I won't pre-authorize because policy. Customer comes in and demands I let him fill up before paying. I explain the policy and he lights into me with perhaps every expletive he knows. I'd like to say I was professional, but I returned his hospitality. The next day when I show up for work, my manager's waiting for me, clearly unhappy. He's a regular customer and we want to keep them happy. I explained to her that regular customer or not, I wasn't willing to risk my job over a drive-off when people are getting fired for losing such little sums of money. Manager states, I see what you're saying, but you have to learn which rules to follow. Now she's been with the company for about 15 years. She could get some leeway. I'd been there less than a year. I had no leeway. So I asked her, please put in writing which rules I'm expected to follow and which rules I do not. Or put in writing which customers are exceptions to policy and which ones are not. Until then, I'm following all of the company's policies. I'm not surprised that she wouldn't put that in writing. Fast forward about a week, I'm working solo on a Sunday afternoon when someone I've never seen before comes in and yells at me for not pre-authorizing his pump. I explained the company policy and that he'd have to prepay just like everyone else. Customer claimed he was with corporate and that he should be allowed an exception. I informed him that if he really was from corporate, he'd know about this policy and would expect me to follow it. I even pointed to the policy statement in the window for him to read. The customer yelled at me and stormed off before I could reply. Turns out this stranger was from corporate and even the VP of the company. He called to complain to my manager about my refusal to let him pump first. She repeated my arguments as to why I refused to risk my job and that he should be glad to know they have such loyal employees. VP said that policy was meant for regular customers and not for employees. She replied, please put into writing which rules we're expected to follow and which ones we're not. You know, having your manager repeat your arguments to the VP like that is a true compliment. It means they heard you, understood your point, and came to agree with you. Nicely done. And our second story. I'm not accusing you of stealing. I can see the handle sticking out of your purse. About a month ago, there was more theft than normal going on in the makeup store I work at, and it's because of the fact that it was winter break. Unfortunately, when the teenagers in my area get a bit of free time, they feel it's appropriate to use it to come into our store and steal from us. We were finding wrapper after wrapper, box after box, stuffed under aisles and in displays. It was really annoying because it reflects really poorly on the hours we get. Anyways, towards the end of Christmas break, we started to slow down. People had bought all their presents and spent their gift cards, so there wasn't much going on, except for on the night in question. Me, my manager, who we'll call M, and my two coworkers, C1 and C2, were the only employees there. We were only an hour from close, and there was maybe 2 or 3 customers meandering around the store. I was replacing all the trash bags while my coworkers were cleaning up the register area. At my store, it's sort of an unspoken rule that we make a point of greeting every single person who comes through the front doors. So when a group of 3 teenage girls came through, both my coworkers greeted them. They did what all teenagers who come in to steal do. They don't acknowledge the greeters in hopes of coming off unapproachable. But my coworkers are seasoned retailers, so they immediately get on the walkie-talkies and alerted me to keep an eye out. C1. Hey, OP, C2 and I just said hi to those girls, and they were acting a little weird. You might want to stay in that area and keep an eye on them. OP. I will. I'll leave the trash over in the corner, and I'll pick it up later. I didn't want the girls to feel like I was following them just in case we were wrong and they really just didn't want to be talked to. So I stood in the aisle on the left side of the aisle they were in. I had a direct view of them, but they would have to come stand at the very end to see me. At first, they were just having a bit of fun, spraying our hand sanitizer testers at each other and opening the sugar scrubs to smell them. Nothing I really care about. But then the sound of crinkling wrapper made me lean in closer to look at what was going on. I noticed that the girl ripping the packet open was also holding a Starbucks cup, one of the white ones with a flat lid for hot drinks. I watched as she took the hand sanitizer out of its packaging and removed the lid from her drink. I watched her put the hand sanitizer in the drink cup and replace the lid. I knew I was going to have to tell my manager. OP, does M have a walkie-talkie on? Because I just watched one of these girls steal a hand sanitizer. M, yeah, I do. Where are they? OP, they're in the bath aisles. I think they're going to head up to the front soon. Unfortunately, that wasn't entirely correct. The girls rounded the corner of the next aisle, the one which housed all our hairbrushes. A different girl, one with one of those lounge fly bags, unzipped it and put one of our Harry Potter-themed hairbrushes in her bag. It didn't even zip all the way. She tried to zip it up hard, but the end of the handle stuck out, only slightly. They promptly abandoned that aisle and started making their way to the front of the store. OP. They're coming up right now. They put something in that drink cup, and there's something in the backpack, too. Now, we're not allowed to accuse people of stealing. We can get into trouble if we're incorrect, and we're definitely not allowed to hold them back from leaving. So I wasn't sure what my manager could do, but I wanted her to be aware. They made it up to the door when my manager stopped them, asked something she asks everyone who leaves our store empty-handed. The girls are G1, G2, and G3. M. Was there something we could help you guys find today? G1. No, you guys don't have what we want. M. Oh, okay. Well, is there any way I can get back the stuff you took from us so I don't have to trespass you from the store? G2. Are you accusing us of stealing? We didn't take anything. M. I'm not accusing you. I can see one of my hairbrushes sticking out of your friend's bag. The girls all just sort of looked at each other, not sure what to do. Eventually, the girl with the backpack ripped the hairbrush out of it and handed it to my manager. They started to walk past her to the door when my manager stopped them again. M. Can you please give me whatever you put in that cup? Then you can go. The girl with the cup huffed and rolled her eyes. Nevertheless, he opened it and took out the hand sanitizer that was now covered in what looked to be hot chocolate or maybe really sugary coffee. She put it in my manager's hand. M. If you guys come back with your parents, I'm going to have a talk with them because this is really ridiculous, girls. They all left really quickly, and we got to go about our business for the rest of the night. Could have been worse. But we never really get the stuff back people steal from us, so I wanted to share. This is how it should always be. Confront them, but do it in a professional manner. Retailers need to stop allowing theft to happen just because we could be wrong and hurt someone's feelings. And our last story. Neighbor want half of our backyard. We recently bought a house, and as a big dog person, I wanted to install a nice vinyl 6-foot privacy fence. Our neighbors have their side yard next to our backyard, and we live on a corner lot. We already had some issues shortly after moving in, so I wanted to ensure that when I install this fence, everything is done properly. I started with a survey. Our surveyor calls me while he's finishing the job because he talked to the neighbors who built a fancy little garden on our property. It includes a big flagpole, like the normal size you'd see commercially, and 2 new trees all on our lot. The neighbor insists the surveyor is wrong and that he isn't on our property, but you can clearly tell he is. Our surveyor said the neighbors started off all PO'd, claiming he was wrong, but after the guy explained it to them, they calmed down a bit, though they were still sobbing uncontrollably about how it could possibly not be their property. So 2 days after the survey, we go and talk to them. We tell them we aren't going to have them tear out their garden or anything like that, but we are installing a fence. The neighbor once again tells us the surveyor must be wrong, saying the documents he has are from the 70s and claiming nobody has had a survey done around here since then, so obviously the surveyor just has to be wrong. Then he tells us how his family used to own the whole block back when it was farmland and that they used to own all the lots. Now I'm getting vibes that this dude just thinks he's somehow grandfathered into using whatever land around here that he wants. He tells us he needs, emphasizing the word, at least 10 feet of our property because he built a second garage behind his house and would have no way to get to it unless he took out his decorative yard stuff. He says he wants to buy it. We told him we'd think about it, but we know the answer will certainly be no because 10 feet's almost half of my backyard. We're putting our fence up and being nice enough to go around their little garden thing, but we're not giving him 10 feet of our yard. He says he wants to get a survey done too because he thinks our guy was lying. Once I get my fencing, it's being installed. I'm talking to the city tomorrow and following all regulations and guidelines exactly. I'm just worried he's going to try a bunch of crap to get this property that isn't even his. I know fencing varies by city and township regulations, but this hardly has to do with that, just that our neighbor seems to think he's entitled to half of our backyard. Update. We talked to the city and our bank. The bank will not sign off on selling them property, so at least we're backed up by that. If they try to argue it, they cannot. Now we're contacting a lawyer to see if we can get something figured out, maybe make them remove their stuff from our property. We needed to get a variance for our side yard anyway, so that won't be looked at until September 15th, which gives us time to solve this issue entirely. We can fence along the property line in the backyard, at least for privacy, and then continue with it once our variance comes in. This is so stressful. Finding out that your perfect home has a major issue like this. Final update. After weeks of back and forth with our neighbor and consulting with our lawyer, we finally received some good news. The lawyer helped us draft a formal letter demanding the removal of their garden structures from our property, and we sent it over with all the necessary documentation, including the survey results. At first, the neighbors were resistant, but once they realized we were serious and had the legal backing, they started to come around. They eventually agreed to move the flagpole and trees back onto their property, but it wasn't an easy process. There were definitely some tense moments, but we made it clear that our property lines were non-negotiable. With that settled, they were able to start installing our fence without any more issues. The fence went up smoothly, and now we have the privacy we wanted from the start. Our backyard finally feels like it belongs to us, and we can enjoy it without worrying about anyone encroaching on our space. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.